I came into last weekend's gathering test with an open mind and low expectations. A rushed leveling event with a Mount Skin bribe doesn't exactly scream balanced economy preview, but what I got instead was the most encouraging glimpse of Ashes of Creation's economy so far. Crafting wasn't a mindless grind, gathering felt rewarding, and for the first time I didn't feel punished for skipping the mob grind treadmill. I played the way I wanted, and I didn't fall behind. Was it perfect? Not even close. Loot balance is still broken, hunting needs serious help, and crafting gear feels obsolete the second you make it. But even with those problems, it finally feels like Ashes might deliver on the impossible MMO promise. A real, player-driven economy where progress doesn't mean killing the same mob 200 times just to stay relevant. Let's talk about what worked, what needs fixing, and why this test might have quietly been one of the most important moments in Ashes development so far. I hit level 14 this weekend by gathering, processing, and crafting solo. No kill quests, no farming trash spawns for hours, just raw materials, refined goods, and self-made gear. And while some players started out grinding mobs, the calls for group content slowed down by the afternoon, and throughout the weekend I kept leveling without ever needing to fight mindlessly. As far as I know, the highest legitimate level anyone reached was 16. Someone hit 21 using an exploit, but ignoring that outlier, most players hovered between 13 and 15, and I was right there with them. That kind of leveling balance is something we haven't seen in Ashes until now. Normally, non-combat progression is treated like a side activity, a novelty system you mess with after hitting cap to min-max your gear. But this test flipped that. For once, crafting and gathering weren't punished. They were viable, rewarding, and honestly, a lot more fun than sitting in one spot grinding mobs for hours. At the same time, it didn't feel like a handout or easy leveling path. You still had to plan your routes, manage your tools, and choose which materials to refine and balance XP gains against fuel costs and inventory space. It was active progression, not passive autopilot. If this is the direction Intrepid's taking with the artisan systems, then I think they're on the right track. Because for players like me, the ones who'd rather build something than kill everything, it finally feels like we have a valuable place in the world. And man, was this weekend fun. As good as the crafting loop felt, there is still one major problem, and it's one that could sabotage the artisan economy in a big way. Dropped loot still completely undercuts the value of crafted gear. I made a heroic tier dagger, and within a short time, the weapon was completely outclassed by a level 10 common drop, just regular enemies handing out better gear for free. And that's not just disappointing, it's dangerous to the economy Intrepid is aiming for. If players can get better equipment by luck-killing mobs than by investing hours into artisan progression like they're supposed to or like the devs are intending, then they'll always take the faster path. It's not about laziness, it's about efficiency, and MMOs are min-max culture factories. At first I thought mobs shouldn't drop gear at all, but that doesn't really solve the problem. It just forces some players who hate crafting into a system that they find boring or tedious. The only real fix is this: crafted gear has to be better than dropped gear, always. A level 0 legendary crafted item should outperform a level 10 common item. If it doesn't, there's no reason to craft anything above uncommon quality until you hit max level, and even then, only if you're desperately trying to min-max your character. Loot inflation killed crafting in WoW, it trivialized it in New World, and it will gut Ashes of Creation too if Intrepid doesn't take it seriously. This test was a huge win for artisanship, but if dropped gear keeps scaling this way, all that progress disappears the second a player gets a lucky drop. As an additional note, I replaced my heroic level 0 daggers with a lucky two-handed greatsword drop. I was fine with the new weapon, but casually tossing my hard work aside definitely did not feel great. If you've got thoughts on this, especially if you ditched your crafted gear 5 minutes after finally making it like I did, drop a comment and let me know how your test went. Sub to the channel too if you want to catch more Ashes videos like these. One of the most surprising things about this test was how good material gathering felt. Not just in the moment, but in terms of rarity and balance. I didn't see a huge volume of high quality materials, and even though they dropped a bit more frequently than I expected, it didn't feel like too much. Though I'm sure other players might disagree. That's exactly where gathering should be, rewarding but not exploitative or effortless. Most of what I collected ended up being used as fuel for building initial gear or just sold for gold, which means you're making trade-offs, not stockpiling mats you'll never use. It still needs more testing to dial in the numbers, especially once refining and endgame recipes are in play, but right now it's a solid step in the right direction. I'm adding this part after the mining changes on Thursday. They added a patch note that says, now you can't mine for desired metals. You're hitting granite and basalt in the hopes of getting metals or gems. I'm not a fan of this change because players should be able to aim for what they're gathering and not waste their time, and it causes quite a few other problems we don't really need to discuss, but I guess in the end we're just gonna have to see how the test turns out and what the devs end up doing. The one gathering profession that still isn't holding its own is hunting. While mining, logging, and herbalism all felt rewarding and well-paced, hunting lagged behind in both output and consistency. Across all of Alpha 2, I only saw 3 heroic carcasses and 1 epic quality drop. And that wasn't from a lack of trying. I was hunting regularly, but most of the time, all you get are common carcasses with no real value. I was hoping that issue would be resolved in this PTR test, but it looks like resource quality from hunting has been delayed, just like the broader hunting and animal husbandry systems themselves. That might not seem like a big deal now, but it's going to matter a lot more in Phase 3. Carcass quality directly affects tanning, cooking, tailoring, and eventually leatherworking and armor smithing. If high quality drops remain this rare, those professions are going to struggle to produce anything above heroic tier, if they can even reach that. Right now, it's the weak link in an otherwise solid gathering test. And even if Intrepid wants to push full hunting and husbandry development into a future phase, they should still address the material quality issue now. Hunting resources are tied into nearly every other artisan profession, and without meaningful quality drops, those systems can't properly be tested either. This weekend test didn't feel like a flashy showcase. It wasn't about big raids, flashy spells, or massive PvP battles. It was just leveling, gathering, crafting, and somehow that made it one of the most important tests Ashes has had so far. For the first time, leveling through gathering felt viable, crafting felt rewarding, and I never felt like I was falling behind just because I wasn't grinding mobs all day. Which means playing Ashes as an artisan is now a very real possibility. There are still problems, loot balance needs serious work, hunting is lagging behind, and crafting will only matter if it stays competitive compared to gear drops as systems evolve. But even with those flaws, this was a phenomenal step forward. If Phase 3 builds on what we saw here, tightens up gear stat scaling, tunes hunting, and puts real weight behind crafting progression, then Intrepid might actually pull off what they promised, a real functioning player-driven economy. I'm looking forward to the Phase 3 test even more than before, so here's hoping it's a success. That's all for today. You're welcome.